So we have two options, meaning I would have this player cover the midfield and you retake a back post, because typically, you know, first, second, and third / first, you know, first man retaking a third will be the midfield coverage, right? So you go here, and this player's just chilling. And then that happens, and we can get a quick cut into pass to this player or control up sidewall, versus having to have you take this challenge from the goal line. And that's what midfield coverage prevents. Midfield coverage prevents this challenge, because this challenge is incredibly difficult when you have to have a player go from goal line all the way out to midfield. That's a very tough challenge. Advantage lies the attacker. So far today, like, everyone's making my job difficult. Everyone's playing very consistent. I guess it means the coaching's paying off. But, like, no joke, like, the fundamentals of everyone's games are super good. Mostly the only thing that's missing is impact on the ball via mechanics, which is super boring and hard because it just takes hours and hours and hours. There's just no fancy stuff. So everyone's making me work to kind of fancy up games. So what I want to talk about with user is something that we're not, it's one of those things like what you're doing is fine, but I know we're going to need this. And I want to show a couple examples for you. And again, what you're doing is fine. That's like the thing with Rocket League. I always say, like, every decision you make is a fine decision. There might be a more efficient one, but I want you to start thinking about this new concept to potentially apply in new situations. Some of these examples I'm going to show might not be spot on, where your decision might have been the better decision, but I want to kind of use this replay as a way to explain a defensive concept, meaning defensive midfield coverage. And I just know you're going to need it. It's just one of those situations where, like, we'll just use this for example. There's a lot of positions to cover in a defensive rotation, whether it's a corner, a backboard, a goal, or a midfield. Typically, like, those are like the hot zones of where the ball moves through. And in this play, we have our challenge. So this dude is correct. We have our filler second man back post. You are correct. So who covers the midfield in case this ball somehow rolls this way and we need someone to dive it? It would be this player. It would be the first man. This first man can also control boost back there and maybe get backboard as additional coverage. So I want to cover defensive midfield even if I have to explain it through a teammate's eyes, because I know when I'm watching this gameplay, I am watching you, but I'm also watching the team, and the ball just keeps rolling out to the midfield. And I've been thinking this whole time, well, I can't really give it to you because, like, you've been making the correct decision per the play, but I know you need it, and I think it's something that you can experiment with games going forward. So I'm going to try to show some examples for you, and this is a great concept for Diamond, Champ, maybe GC. I feel like people know it, learn it in GC, but, like, the midfield on defense is a hot zone. Where do people shoot from? The midfield. So this is good. And I'll even like use a ton of examples with your teammates. So it's like, you know, you think about your rotation, right? That's like kind of a defensive rotation. You challenge the ball right there. Right? And your homie will even use right here. He challenged the ball right there. He comes here, covers the midfield. You go there, right? Retaking this dude's role. He cycles to your role. It's a good defensive rotation. And he goes to the midfield. And he gets a little bump, which then gives you time to kind of force this play right here. And you could cover the midfield by playing the ball or bumping or just sitting. And you're kind of like a safety, right? In football, American football. So I'm going to keep showing examples for this because I know it's like, and the other thing would be backboard. I know you need that, but I want to go down midfield coverage route. Let's keep finding defensive examples. Right here. All right, so I highlighted this before. You did a really good job of leaving this for individual improvement. Stress yourself to go up here and get that clear. You have the time. You have the timing. But game sense wise, this is smart. If you like to play like this and leave touches for a teammate, that's good. If I'm watching like a GC, they're hard clearing that. They're rotating and hard clearing. But for midfield coverage example purposes, we rotate through the midfield and you stop right here. Maybe not stop, slow down. So like, remember, like you have a goal, you have a corner, right? You have a backboard, you have a midfield. Well, you just went right through and allowed this player to cycle up. And if that ball went a little bit out, this dude's shooting. And if there was any one to stop that play, it would have been you, right? Because you're the cover. It's typically that first man cover, right? First man retaking a third man. That's who covers the midfield. And it just so happens we don't get punished. But this is why I want us to start thinking about this. Got another one. So, right, we rotate. We were that corner challenge. Now we're like, okay, let's go take our corner. Let's go retake back post. And it's like you rotate through here and you're thinking, oh, no bump, no ball. I don't have to be there, but you are the cover. Because if this ball somehow becomes playable for this player, you're the cut instead of having your goal line defender challenge. And like if you could like really experiment with risk and play style, let's say you're a hyper aggressive player who is cut heavy, maybe some may call it ball chasing. You do this, you could do this, you could do this, and then you're thinking, okay, stay right here. And then you're thinking, oh, give me that ball. Be mechanical. Instead of having that dude get another touch. And then this dude kind of hesitates and gets a bad touch. And it does lead into something productive. But you could also see how somehow this ball magically went to the midfield again. The ball always goes to the midfield. And I want us to start thinking, that was a good play from you, just thinking about defensive midfield coverage. And I'll try to show some opponent examples as well. And you'll just see no one covers the midfield. Easiest way for you to think about it is going to be bump demo, cut, or cover. That's how I like to explain it. You have three options. We'll show opponent example right here. Look, who would be the cover? It would be this homie. And then this homie's like, oh, I got no boost. Well, tough luck. You got to make decisions in this game when you're low boost. You just track your pads. And what's beautiful about the midfield is you have this nice little pad rotation. So you could be 0 boost and somehow get 50 boost just by covering the midfield. So that dude rotates through the midfield because he sees you rotate out. And he's thinking, I don't need to stay there. But then your teammate cycles forward. And your teammate gets a free shot because this dude made the easier decision of just rotating back and leaving it for a goal line. So no one covers the midfield. That was nice trying the control. That was good from a teammate, but even look at your teammate right here. Your teammate covered the midfield, but he made it so much harder on himself. He could do this. He could do this. And see how that ball just like goes to the midfield. And it's like, how can we cover this, right? Well, you get that boost, and instead of tracking this way, you're immediately tracking this way. And if you start tracking this way, you see this player, and you get, I don't know if the right way to say it would be like initial awareness, but the reason this player doesn't have awareness for the play and why this midfield coverage looks awkward because he's in front of the ball is because he rotated down the ball side instead of going here, and then immediately getting to the midfield. And it's just tracking this pad rotation, get here, because you have to anticipate that someone's going to be there. You just have to. Right? Like he still got the job done, but it's like you could just go this way and directly cover and trust the process, literally. Or you could do the harder thing and do that. Keep showing examples. Right here. So we have two options, meaning I would have this player cover the midfield and you retake a back post, because typically, you know, first, second, and third / first, you know, first man retaking a third will be the midfield coverage, right? So you go here, and this player's just chilling. And then that happens, and we can get a quick cut into pass to this player or control up sidewall, versus having to have you take this challenge from the goal line. And that's what midfield coverage prevents. Midfield coverage prevents this challenge, because this challenge is incredibly difficult when you have to have a player go from goal line all the way out to midfield. That's a very tough challenge. Advantage lies the attacker. And it's like we just keep finding these examples, right? So we rotate back. Demo, bump, cut, cover. You could cover the midfield by demoing this player. Let's say you don't want to demo. You could just position. And all you're doing, like, this is your zone. You're just positioning in the zone. Now, if that ball goes mid, and it does, depending on play style, you could ball chase cut this. Versus now our second man is really, really far away from this challenge. And you could have, picture the cut, right? You cut into open space. You're right here. And then you cut in front of this dude, and we still get a goal line defender, and we still get you, who would have been the second man, close to the play to pick that up. It works out. And this is what's hard, and I want you just to think about this replay on a macro level. This is more of like a concept style review. I know we need this. We're not getting punished yet, so it's hard to realize it. But start looking for defensive midfield coverage. Because you could see left the midfield. Because what happens, sometimes, I don't know if at a grand champ level, but like this dude's going to pass it here, and that's a shot. Or this dude's going to control it here, and you are going to be forced to take this challenge, which is awkward, whereas this player could have just 50'd it, cut it, etc. Right? We could, instead of you having to close this distance, this player could have already been on the ball. It's almost like the defensive midfield, it's like you're cutting corners. It allows you to play the ball more efficiently. And you're also adding that kind of positional threat where if the opponents see you there, they might be reluctant to pass or control through the midfield. Or they take a shot and their shot accuracy might not be there because, you know, like you're there. You're just a body in the way. I do think you're playing good, and I do think you're setting up your teammates well. And I would say overall, this is a really good replay. I just wanted to kind of turn this into like a concept style review of something that we could start practicing on our own to implement, even if it's like in our ranked games. And you can see right here, we'll use this as another example. Eventually, you are going to get to a point where you don't need 3 people on the goal line. You just don't. So how can we get midfield coverage in this play? It actually would be you. You would just play here. You would play like a midfield into front post. That would be your rotation. Because we're going to have our back post. Now we have 2 people at the back post. And when you have 2 people at the back post, this player hesitates because you're hesitating. And you would just be right here to cover in case this ball went out. And if it doesn't, you cycle to front post. Or you could play this ball. Because now the problem is, okay, we need someone on that ball who's going to do it. And you're like, nah, I'm not going to do it. And he's like, he should have gone, but I'm all the way back here. And this is how it prevents mistakes. But as seen, we don't get punished for it yet. Typically, if you play a very aggressive team in Champion, midfield coverage will kind of solve this. But it's definitely something we need to start somehow incorporating. Because what you did right here was midfield coverage in a way. This was really good, right? See, you're in the midfield. Right? And then the ball goes there. And instead of being a front post or a back post, now you can play it. And this will actually lead in to more mechanical opportunities, because a very popular way to transition is a midfield cut into sidewall control, sometimes into boost control into sidewall control, or a midfield cut into corner boost control into sidewall mechanics. So it actually opens up more opportunity to play the sidewall. I like how we're playing. I would be confident with yourself. You leave a lot of touches for your teammates, which probably makes them happy. But maybe if we start covering midfield on defense more, we'll get more opportunities to play the ball. That would be my biggest issue with this replay, is we don't have a ton of impact on the ball. But everything else looks good. Good. Good boom. Good drive challenge. Good goal. Again, setting up the teammates. That's kind of been the theme. Nice job, though. Good stuff, sir. Clean.